This is chapter 54, entitled Still Sacred, Religious Music in the 20th Century. Regarding the Prix de Rome, talented French artists and composers have long competed for a special prize, the Prix de Rome, that allows them the opportunity to live in Rome and explore their creativity. It actually started in like 1623, and I think they didn't really start a music section until 1803. And there were categories for painting and sculpture, engraving, and other areas. And the first woman, or they started to allow women in 1903 to win the Prix de Rome. And what it did, it was a recognition of a young person's talent and achievements that they've already had, and it allows them to study in Rome for 3 years. And I think that they stopped the Prix de Rome in 1968, something like that. But for various reasons. And Lily Boulanger, who is the focus of this chapter, was the first woman to win the prize. And her style, we're going to listen to a wonderful piece that she wrote, and it's not, well, in the 20th century, actually after Beethoven, which we haven't studied yet, it's less of a style period, and it's more about the style of the composer. Even though there's a large style, there's the individual composers are try to be more unique with their styles. And so Lily Boulanger her style is like that. It's a little bit hard to categorize. And in the book, I wanted to quote where they talk about music in the 20th century, and there was still a mainstream of traditional type art music, but it says that at this time, there were new currents of style led to radical changes in music composition that assaulted the ears of listeners. As we saw in the we'll have when we studied Debussy and others that this had been taking place for quite some time. Actually, Beethoven wrote music that was a little bit irregular, and so there was always kind of a radical group and a more conservative group as far as music styles. And, either you're going to be a traditional composer or a little bit radical. Her sister, Lily's sister, right, was a highly respected teacher. And we'll talk a little bit about her as well. And the piece we're going to listen to is Lily Boulanger's Psalm 24, as an example of modernist sacred music. We're still in the sacred choral music unit, sacred choral music, and that's what this is. It's non-functional. It's not written for a particular purpose or service or anything like that. So this Prix de Rome, we said that they started to accept women nominations in 1903. Prior people that had won this, Hector Berlioz, which we'll study when we look at program music. George Bizet, I don't know, he wrote the opera Carmen. Debussy will study with Impressionism. They were also winners of the Prix de Rome. Many successful people won. And it sets your career when you won that prize. Immediately, you got commissions to write new music and travel around the world, these types of things. And of course, you had a paid time to study in Europe for 3 years. It's very prestigious, and used to be a prestigious award. So Lily and Nadia, okay, it's interesting that Lily only lived till she was 25 years old. And so that's one of the reasons why we kind of look at what she did and the achievements and it's just a darn shame that she didn't have a lifetime career uh, because it was cut short when she was only 25. So she was born in 1893, and her sister was born in 1887. So her sister was older, Nadia, but she lived until 1979. And Lily died in 1918. Wow. So their father was a composer, and uh, Nadia, the older sister, actually won the second prize in 1908, and then Lily won the first prize in 1913. So she was the first woman to be the actual winner of the Prix de Rome. And unfortunately, winning that with all the requirements and expectations that were put on her, she was not very good health, but this didn't help her being stressed out, and um, it weakened her condition, whatever that was. So she wrote, an amazing amount of music in a short time. Here are the two sisters together. Lily seated, and Nadia, actually the older one, right, was a music teacher. We'll talk about her quickly. Lily. So we're going to listen to a piece, Psalm 24, and it's says in the book, it's powerfully majestic, featuring forces typical for French sacred music. Dramatic introduction, fanfare for brass, harp, organ, and timpani. It's quite a powerful sounding piece. Not very long. A lot of parallel movement, and it's uh, largely chordal and homophonic, right? So it's the one melody and supported by harmonies. A lot of parallel lines when you have exactly that, right? Two lines that move together and keep the same spacing. If they're fifths, they move up a fifth together and move down. They both move parallel. So there's soloists, and again, it's written for chorus, brass, harp, organ, and timpani. From 1916. So before we listen to the music, let's talk about her sister Nadia, who lived until 1979, and she was a composer also. Remember, she won the second prize for the Prix de Rome, and she was a famous teacher. And it's curious how so many successful composers from many different genres and styles of music studied with her, not to learn the basics of music, but to be inspired and to help them develop a career with a unique style. This is Nadia lecturing to music students. Some of the students that were uh, Aaron Copland, Igor Stravinsky. I can't think of the Mexican composer, maybe, but he studied with her. Astor Piazzolla from Argentina, who set his career in motion when he studied with her, and and he would come to the lessons, and she was finally confused and says, asked her, what do you really do? And he brought an accordion, it's bandoneon, and he played for her and played tangos. And she said, this is what you need to do, is focus on your you are. And he became very successful and famous for writing art music in the tango style. Uh, and this she I can't think of another composer who went to study with her. George Gershwin, and we'll study his music. He went to study with her, and she said, I don't want you to take any lessons from me, because I'll just mess you up, because you already are doing what you do. And he was had Jewish music, New York music, and jazz all rolled into producing art music. And we'll listen to his some of his music, George Gershwin. But so Nadia, as a teacher, had this ability to help people focus on uh, what they were and who they were, and to use that to their benefit, and to create an individual style. All right, let's listen to the piece. And another side note here is the performance makes a huge difference in the entertainment and the success of the performance. For quite some time, I could not get a good recording, a video of this piece of music, and I had one, and it was only with organ, and it was like, I didn't really wasn't excited about the music. But the one we're going to hear now has the full ensemble of the brass, the harp, the organ, the timpani, and it now I understand why this piece of music is considered to be a great piece of music. So it's about 4 minutes.